How's it going, everyone? RoyalFlush here. Welcome to my YouTube channel. If you don't know, I have been a fight stick modder for how long? At least the last 14 years of my fighting game career. I worked on fight sticks for a long time. I did it for like a side hustle, and now I just kind of share the knowledge and still kind of do it, but not nearly as much as I used to. Okay, but this is some knowledge that you should really know. Today I want to focus on push buttons, okay? The types that exist, how to disconnect them, and when you should really start to consider to replace them. Let's just get right into it. So I have a few buttons here. Let's go ahead and look at the sizes, alright? So push buttons, they come in several shapes here, okay? The most standard, we're going to only talk about Japanese push buttons here. These are the Sanwa OBSF buttons, okay? They're standard, and they come in two sizes typically. You can already tell the difference, right? Maybe not. This is a 30 millimeter button here. This is the one that you'll have most of on your fight stick, okay? Assuming you're using a fight stick. If you're a hitbox user, different story. You'll have more of these. These are the 24 millimeters. But if you have a regular standard fight stick, like say like a Mad Catz TE, like me, you have at least eight 30 millimeter push buttons, okay? And then if you don't have anything adjusted on your fight stick, you should only have two 24 millimeter buttons, okay? It's kind of hard to tell but I think this is as close as I get it side by side, okay? So that difference in size makes a big difference, because if you get 8 of these for your fight stick, they're gonna fall right through the hole, and you're gonna be like, what the hell did I just order? Nah, you ordered 8 start and select buttons, okay? So make sure you order at least 8 of these. You can get several colors if you like. Preferably, I like to have 6 of the same color, and then 2 that are like my far right buttons for, like, you know, depends on the game. Usually it's a record and play feature, or for some games that require more than 6 buttons, you might actually use it for a macro. So be it. Okay? And then you would need at least 2 of these for your start and selects, assuming your stick has it. Some sticks don't have it. So all buttons have 3 pieces. The switch itself, this is actually called a micro switch. This is called a plunger. This is typically not your bathroom plunger. This is the piece of the button that gets plunged down when you press on it. And then this part here is the rim, okay? And so this is how it all looks deconstructed. I'm going to insert the switch here, okay? It just fits in like that. Clicks right in. Just give it a little bit of press, it clicks right in. And then you put the plunger right on top, okay? And then there are these grooves here. You see this whole groove here? This will allow it to press right perfectly in place, okay? And that's how you hear that satisfying click noise, okay? So this is what a push button looks like. But there's some things about this push button I wanted to show you. This is usually when you should want to consider changing the button, or at least doing some maintenance on your buttons, okay? If you have sweaty hands, I don't, but some people do. Buttons tend to develop this gunk, okay? That's one. It can develop on the plunger itself, or on the inside here. You may not be able to see it. But also, let's look at the switch. It actually does, it does and can get quite dirty depending on your living conditions or your tendency to how well you take care of your things. These things, they can get dirty. I did not wipe this thing down intentionally, okay? They can get dirty. You can wipe this off with like a cloth, and then if you want to, put these aside. And if you don't want to buy new buttons but you want to preserve the ones you have, you can do some, take all your buttons apart, just like this. You can wash these in warm water, and then use like a towel to clean all of them off, and then make sure they're completely dry before you start putting them all back together. That's if you don't want to buy new buttons. However, if you do want to buy new buttons, then just familiarize yourself with the sizes and buy the kinds you like. There are many that exist. There are Sanwa buttons, there are Senmitsu buttons, there's these gravity buttons, and there are all sorts of push buttons that exist. One more thing about buttons, there's also two different types that you might run into while you're shopping for them. We have the standard snap-in type buttons. So notice these pieces right here. These pieces are what allow to snap in. Therefore, these are called snap-in buttons, most standard. And then you also have buttons here with this nut here. This nut here actually twists off like the gate, and then you can also twist it back on. There are pros to cons to both of them, but usually these screw-in buttons are actually better if you prefer to have like a specific build and you don't want to worry about creating like a perfect 30mm circle. On some older sticks where you need to sand down and Dremel these tabs on the buttons, these are actually preferable. Okay, so snap in, screw in. Okay, but they function the same way. If you ever want to take these pieces apart, if you ever want to get access to the switch or to clean, all you need is a screwdriver. I prefer to use a flathead, a very small flathead, and you just drive it in this wedge here, and you can just press on against the plunger to get it out, just like this. Okay, and then you bring it out like that. So let's say I want to have a button with a blue colored center. Oops. With a blue colored center, I would do something such as this: blue center, orange rim. Okay, you can actually swap pieces out just like this. There, and that you could do that with as long as they're the same make of buttons. So as long as, like, for example, silent buttons are swappable with other silent button parts. Okay, if you actually happen to have silent buttons, there's actually a foam pad that goes into here. Before you put the plunger on, it would go right here. That's if you have silent buttons. There are other mix of silent buttons too that have the silence micro switch. Those also exist. And so if you are going to switch out your current buttons in your current joystick or some new buttons, let us familiarize ourselves with how to remove a button. Okay, so you might want to use some pliers. These are needle nose pliers. And let's take a quick look at how just the buttons are connected. Okay, do you see all those wires? So there's several pieces to the wire. The end piece of it is called a quick disconnect. Quick disconnect is a piece of the wire that has this metal piece on here that carries the electric current. Okay, and typically on most buttons they will actually have one of each. Okay, so these aren't the right size quick disconnects, but they would function just the same way as the properly sized ones. So you might notice it would have two wires like this. Okay, inside of this Quamba joystick, this is the Quamba Obsidian. There's one color to each button, and you can't really tell by looking, but one wire would represent the button signal and the other one represents a ground. And if you're ever unsure, just remove each button one at a time. Remove the wire or quick disconnects first, and then remove the button. So let's go ahead and try to remove this button right here. It'll be this black button with the red wires on it. Okay, so the quick disconnects, you can do this one of two ways. If you want to be extra careful, you can use these pliers. Depending on the stick and the quick disconnects, these can actually be hard to remove, but these ones are pretty easy to remove. But you would want to grip it just tightly enough so that you have a hold of it, but you don't want to pinch it and then you tie in the quick disconnect onto it. Okay, just give it a little bit of a tug and it should be removed. You do that one at a time. Okay, I got one off, I will get the next one off. So, that. Okay, now let's take a close look there. It's kind of hard to tell, but these joysticks for the buttons, the holes that are there, it might be a little hard to get to, so then I actually like to use the same small screwdriver to remove the buttons. So you can do it something like this. You can just use the screwdriver to kind of wedge those tabs a little bit. Don't push too hard, or else you might actually break the tab. Okay. Just enough to remove it. Alright, and I actually got it. So when I'm using this screwdriver, but pretend it's inside, you want to press the tabs of the button itself, alright? See that? This tab right here. You would press it in just so slightly. Because when you press it in, it will allow the button to be pushed through the hole. Okay? And so now let's go ahead and pretend I put in a new one. You would just put it through the hole and make sure the tabs of the button line up to the part that will hold the tabs through. Okay? Hence the snap-in feature. We'll go ahead and give it a press. Okay. Give it a turn to make sure. Okay, did you hear that? It snapped right in. And then now we add the quick disconnect. Alright, and it's in. Okay, you do that for all of your buttons. One at a time, remove the quick disconnects, remove the button, push out the button, okay, by pushing the tabs, and then put in a new button, and put on the quick disconnects. On some other sticks, you might see what's called here a daisy chain. This is the ground connection, okay? And so on some joysticks, you might have a ground connection that are chained like this. Notice the wires are different. Let's pretend this is let's pretend this is your jab button, and then let's pretend this one is your light kick button, or your you guys let's call it the short button, okay? Jab button is red, short button is blue, orange. Okay? This specific wire is the one that controls the function of the jab button, and then this specific wire here, singular wire, is the one that functions as the short button. Okay? But then notice how they share a ground. The ground of this button is connected to the ground of the other button, and then this ground button has a connection to the next ground of the next button, because all buttons need to be connected to a common ground. Okay? It might seem a little bit complicated, but all you need to know is that all buttons are connected to the same ground, but they're not connected to the same signal. So the signal of a specific button has its own signal. So keep that in mind. So that's why if you're ever removing buttons, please do it one at a time. And then one thing you always want to do with your buttons, pick a fighting game that has a nice display of your button presses on screen, and that way you can determine whether your buttons are all working in order. So in order to test it, I'm actually going to turn all my buttons to a function button. Okay, so in Marvel I can do it by doing type B. And what I like to do is tap each button as fast as you can, like maybe 5 to 10 times, okay? So this is how I test for it, okay? I'll start with all the buttons across the top first, and then all the buttons on the bottom. So I did something like this. I'll go for a count of 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Does that look like 10 presses? I think so. Next button. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good. And last one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. But even during the cinematic, it got all the same button presses. So that's how you want to test to make sure all of your buttons are working. And then if you must, go ahead and test out your plink dashes or your more complicated maneuvers. Okay. Very character by character basis. Try your plink dashes. You always want to make sure your buttons are being pressed the way they're supposed to be when you need them. So especially in a game like Marvel, where you have lots of button combinations for like dashing or even plink dashing, you want to make sure your button is being pressed the moment you press it. Okay, and that's how I test for my buttons. that's all there is to it with buttons. They're not as complicated as joysticks, but since there are more of them, you want to make sure each one is working properly. Buttons actually do last quite a while, but if you ever feel like you're missing inputs, always check your training mode display for your button inputs. That's the best way. And then once you start thinking that you need to get some new buttons, go ahead and go to Arcade Shock or Focus Attack, Paradise Arcade. They should have what you need, and just go ahead and consult someone who actually knows the sizes of Fightstick buttons or has experience modding them, such as myself. And you know, have fun pressing buttons and playing your fight games. Alright, see you guys in the next one. Take care.